Go up on YouTube. All right, so I am recording. We are recording this thing. It is going to go up on YouTube. Anyone who doesn't want to be here, please, you can either leave or you can at least turn your camera off if you like. Okay, and we have one more joining us, Howard, and I am going to start sharing my screen now. And everyone should see the Constitution of the United States, a study guide.
Yes, I see it.
All righty. Okay, so we'll begin this meeting with just a review. And the first review that we start with is, what is a republic? Because the Constitution of the United States defines a type of government called a republic. So we have to start off with that. What is a republic? Would anyone care to take a stab at that?
I'll do it.
Okay.
It's a combination of a monarchy, a democracy, and an aristocracy. And last week I was a little weak on that. And then basically, the idea is that if one or the other of any of the three get out of hand, you have the other two to rein them in. And the Constitution of that republic says what is the constraints of that are put upon the government. And there you go.
All right.
I got the
Teresa.
booklet finally in the mail from Howard.
Oh,
And
Teresa,
I started reading it.
Teresa, you get the gold star. That was really good, Teresa. My goodness.
Thank you. Make up for last week.
Oh, no, you did fine. You do fine. So this is the aim of it is liberty, so that the government does not overpower the people. And Lord Acton, who was a historian in the 1800s, that liberty is not a means to a higher political end. It is the highest political end itself, and that is what a republic is aimed to do. So, all right, the Constitution is designed to create a republic, and that is why the first three articles of the Constitution. The first article describes one of the branches of government, which is the democratic branch. The second article describes the monarchical form of government, or the executive, and the third branch describes the aristocratic branch of the government. So it's real interesting that they just happen to fit that together, all three pieces like that. And we will now, this is the book, and if you are a speed reader, you should be able to get all this.
All right. Yes.
And, as in all of my books, I've got a little something there on every one of them on different forms of government, because this is so important, where you have monarchies, you have aristocracies, you have you have republics, and so on. And then we go to the Constitution. We get to the Constitution itself, and the preamble of it, which was originally, they actually wrote the 7 articles for the Constitution, and then they circled back around and they said, you know, we really should put a kind of a beginning statement on this, so that we just don't, you know, explode it onto an unsuspecting world. We need to let them know what it is that we're doing. So it says, we, the people of the United States, and there's a whole bunch of reasons that we're doing this, but what we're doing is we're we are ordaining and establishing this Constitution for the United States of America. And the additional thing that this does, who's crackling candy wrappers?
Oh, sorry. I'll mute.
Thank you. So that the additional thing that this does right here is it is the form that a particular type of document called a I mean, it is an agreement among the people that this is what we're doing, but this document takes the form of a type of legal document called a charter. And a charter, what a charter does, like the Magna Carta, for instance, it is the Great Charter, and in it, the sovereign, who in that case was King John, says, King John, Lord of Ireland, and all the rest of that stuff. And this is what I am allowing to happen. And then he's basically chartered that. And charters have been in use for millennia. And in this case, it says, we the people are the ones that are giving this charter. We, the people, are the sovereigns in it, and we are creating this government for the United States of America, but the people are the sovereigns, which is kind of real interesting, different twist, because every place else, it's, you know, the king does it, or Charlemagne does it, or something like that. All right, so that was the preamble. Then Article 1 has to do with making laws, because the most important part of this government is going to be the making of laws. It's not a government by men; it's a government by laws. You have a law that's set down. So how do you make a law? How does that happen? That's going to be the most important thing. So it starts off with Article 1. It says, all laws, and this is the section 1 of it, all legislative power, all laws are going to be made by Congress. And it says that the Congress is composed of a Senate and a House of Representatives. So now you do Article 1, Section 2, and Section 2 has to do with the House of Representatives. And it talks about who can be in the House of Representatives, how they get elected, how they get chosen, special powers that the House of Representatives has, like, for instance, the power of impeachment and so on. And so that's Article 2. Then you do Article 3. Article 3 talks about the Senate. And the Senate is, all right, here's how do the senators get chosen, and how often do they get chosen, and what are the qualifications for a senator, and what are their special powers, and what do they do especially. And so that's Article 1, Section 3. Then Article 1, Sections 4, 5, and 6 are all kind of housekeeping things. It's setting Congress up for business. And you have how elections are to be done. That's what this one is. And then we have how often they have to meet, and what is it that constitutes a quorum to do business. If you don't have a quorum, you can't do business. What do you have to do for a quorum to do business? That they have to, that each house determines its own rules, that each house keeps a journal of its proceedings. And so this is all just setting up business so that you can now get down to business. So when you get down to business, the next thing is well, how do you make a law? And that's what Article 1, Section 7 is how do you make a law? And it goes into, this is how a bill becomes law. And it talks about, this is the stuff that you learned in grammar school, where the law gets started in, the House of Representatives, and then it goes over to the Senate, and then the president has to sign it, and the ins and outs of if the president doesn't sign it, what happens, and how can it, how does this happen and how does that happen, and that is what Article 1, Section 7 is about. Then, now that you can make a law, you have to say, well, what is it that that you can make laws about? Because remember, this government is granted to it certain powers. We're granting this government to do certain things. So what are the things that we're granting it to do? And that's what Article 1, Section 8 is about. These are the powers of Congress. They're going to be able to borrow money. That's that one there. They're going to establish post offices and post roads. They're going to declare war. They're going to provide for a navy. There are a number of things that they can do in here, and those are the specific things that they're allowed to do. And we are up to the point of Article 1, Section 9, and Article 1, Section 9 is we've just talked about the powers that Congress is allowed to have, but then what are the powers of Congress that are the powers that are going to be forbidden from Congress, that they are not allowed to have? And that's what Article 1, Section 9 is about. So we're going to first read a few key words that will come up in it, just so that when we get to it, we don't have to stumble across these necessarily, or at least we will have seen them before. So Marty, you're first up. Give me a bill of attainder. Oh, you're muted.
Okay, yes, a bill of attainder, a law passed by a parliament that a particular person loses his property or rights because of crimes, proven or not, he has committed. Right.
So, and this was quite often. It happened quite often in England. They would say, "Oh, the Duke of York, we don't like him, and so we're going to take all his property away from him." And they would just pass a law to take all his property away from him, whether they had a crime or not. And we said in the United States, we said, we don't want to do that kind of thing. If you're going to have a law, it has to apply to everyone. It can't just apply to a particular person. Teresa, you're next on my list. Bill of credit.
All right, bill of credit, paper money. It is paper issued by a government to be used as money. After the revolution, many states issued bills of credit to pay their debts. Prices rose, everyone prospered, until the government issued too much paper. It became worthless. Prices crashed. Massachusetts refused to accept its own paper as payment of taxes. The Shays Rebellion ensued.
Good. So it's paper money, and I know you're all familiar with it. Anybody who has a wallet or a purse, you can pick out a bill. It's paper. It's money. It is a bill of credit, and it says the United States government promises to pay the bearer $1. And so you can take that into the Treasury and you can hand it to them, and they will hand you another $1 just like it. It used to be that they were silver certificates and gold certificates that they would hand that you could redeem them for silver or gold. But this one, paper, it's paper money. There are arguments for and against it. And I know that last week, or a couple of weeks ago, I sent around that rather lengthy law review article about whether or not the Constitution allows paper money. Well, we're going to talk about bills of credit in here in just a minute. The next one, Bob, you're next on my hit list.
Okay. Ex post facto, from the thing done afterward, a law making an earlier act a crime. For instance, suppose you often walk down a certain road, then it becomes illegal. You stop it, but the police arrest you for having done it before it was a crime. Hmm.
Yeah.
People are doing that now, aren't they?
Yeah.
What, somebody has an example of ex post facto?
I think some people are doing that right now on the other side.
Like what?
Well, they're trying to anyway, arrest people for things that they did in the past that may or may not be crimes.
Okay, like what? I don't know what you're referring to.
Go ahead, forget it. Just keep going, John.
Okay, I'm sorry, Bob. I just don't know.
That's okay.
Okay, habeas corpus. Who's next on my? Hey, Joel.
All right, habeas corpus. An order requiring a person to be brought before a judge or into a court, especially in order to investigate the right of the authorities to keep him imprisoned.
Good. So that's just an order, which means actually in Latin, habeas corpus means you have the body, and so you got to tell me why you should have the body.
Doesn't it say that it has to be brought, the body has to be brought into the courtroom? Requiring a person to be brought before a judge.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my understanding of it. Although I imagine that if you have that, if it's at great distance or something, you might still have.
Then they use Zoom.
Yeah, then they can use Zoom or something. Exactly right.
Yeah.
All right, Howard, can you unmute yourself?
Hello, Howard.
Is Howard-
Unmute.
There,
All right.
there you are.
There you go.
Well,
All
I
right.
would like to point out then that the latest assault against the Constitution are court hearings that appear over Zoom because you haven't brought the body. Okay, enough of my
Okay.
diatribe.
All right, thank you.
Sure. Habeas corpus, is that what I'm reading? Habeas corpus?
No, we already did that.
Actually, you're going to start with the very first.
Powers forbidden Congress?
Yeah, Howard's forbidden Congress.
Ooh, let's see what else is forbidden. Section 9, the migration or importation of such persons as any of the states now existing shall think proper to admit shall not be prohibited by the Congress prior to the year 1808, but a tax or duty may be imposed on such importation not exceeding $10 for each purpose. Shall I go on?
No,
The privilege?
Each person.
for each person.
Uh,
So this is.
what did I say?
Purpose.
This is specifically has this very specifically had to do with the slave trade, and in 1787 they were pretty sure that because it was just very expensive to keep slaves, it looked like the whole institution of slavery was dying out. So they were going to give it 20 years to ease it out, and that they were going to not. They said, you know, you're importing slaves or migrating slaves from here to there or whatever. Congress can't prohibit that for 20 years. We can make a tax on it, however. And it was expected that it was going that the interest was going to die out, as I mentioned. But also, when Lincoln was preparing for, I guess, his debates with Douglas or something, there's a whole raft of notes that he made of all of the laws that Congress had passed during that 20 years to inhibit slavery, showing that the Congress, although they were not allowed to prohibit it completely, they did everything they could to inhibit it, which it was a rather interesting list, just to read it. Yeah, kind of interesting. So the next one is Kevin. Can you unmute yourself? All right, thank you. And you're doing the privilege down there.
Privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended, unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion, the public safety may require it.
Good.
No,
No, that's all, that's fine. So this is, these are personal liberty issues. These were intended as a Bill of Rights. It was like they said, okay, we're going to prohibit Congress from doing these things. And so that's kind of like as good as a Bill of Rights, which they found out the people didn't quite buy that. They said, you're going to have to give us a real Bill of Rights. But this was one of them, that habeas corpus cannot be suspended unless there's a rebellion or an invasion going on and public safety requires it. So, all right, good with that. And I think we're back up to, oh, it looks like we lost Cheryl. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Marty, the next one.
No bill of attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed.
No bill of attainder or ex post facto law shall be passed. I didn't hear you say no, but
I did say no, I think. You just
Okay.
may not, but no.
I'm going to assume you did.
Okay.
Okay. So that's, we talked about those. You can't have a law just against a particular person, and you can't make something illegal and then arrest people for things that they did when it was legal.
John, I've got a question on that.
Yeah.
Would it, let's take the example of a tax. My reading would be that the federal government cannot pass a tax to tax you for something that happens earlier than now.
Yeah, no, exactly right. And that's one of the things that they always have to run into and look out for when they're doing tax packages. Here it is February or January or February or March or something of the year, and they're going to make it effective for the whole year. That means that this earlier part of the year, you are now being taxed for what wasn't at one time was not taxable. And so they are very careful about making sure that if they do something like that, that they make it so that it is more to your benefit to follow this law than not. So nobody's going to complain.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you were following the law in effect at that time, you would have had to pay more taxes than if you followed this new one passed later. So yeah, you'll take the lesser tax, absolutely.
I gotcha. All right, and my next question is a much larger question, and we don't have to answer it now.
Okay.
But I get a little confused sometimes. This is the Constitution of the U.S., but would the state of California or Oregon or Florida, or whatever, have a right to create a law that would be ex post facto?
There would be quite a battle, because it's just not done. It's not accepted. If they did do that, it would go to court. I don't know that that's ever been adjudicated. I don't know, but you're right. I mean, this is no ex post facto law, and it's talking specifically about Congress, the national government. And you're right, that it is here doesn't mean it does not necessarily apply to the states. It's exactly right. So if they did do something, it could be attacked on that. It's just sort of un-American, you know.
But they could do it. The states could do it, even though the federal government can't.
Right. It would. Yes, it seems that way to me. And
You have to look at their constitution.
But that's right. I think that many of the states kind of copied this, and they probably have no ex post facto.
Right.
Yeah, and it raised the larger issue that I get confused on sometimes, and it came up to me when I read the book, the Gunsmoke in the Courtroom. I think was the title of it. And where you're talking about the right to bear arms versus the interpretations by the states. And lots of times it seemed that the states were overstepping their bounds and crossing against what the Constitution said. And that's where I get a little confused. So like I said, we don't have to take it up now, but it would be at the appropriate time. I'd be quite interested in a little bit of look at that.
Well, no, you are absolutely right, because, for instance, in the Constitution, it doesn't have anything in there about speed limits. So that means that Congress cannot make any laws about speed limits, but state governments sure can, because state governments still have those powers. And state governments can protect their citizens. And when one of those cases, I think, was one of those cases in Gunsmoke in the Courtroom was Mississippi 1822 or something, where the fellow had what they called an Arkansas pig sticker,
Right.
which was a Bowie knife, which is a big, scary knife, you know? and they said, oh, it's a big, scary knife. You're not allowed to carry one of those. I mean, it's kind of like an AK-47 or something, you know? It's like an AR-15.
AK-47 of knives.
Scary. And so they you know, what that state court said was, it was the effect of, and this is where I got the idea later on, that, you know, your rights go right up to the point where you're not scaring the neighbors.
Yep. I have a question.
Yeah.
Since you brought up the speed limit, the interstates, though, those are national government. Do the states still do the speed limit there, or is it?
Yes, states still do speed limits there. However, from time to time, I know back in the 70s, they made the double nickel law, where 55 became the speed limit for everybody everywhere, or was supposed to.
Yeah, right.
And what that was tied to was federal money going to your state for transportation. So if you didn't do 55 speed limit, you lost money. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So
But the states have the right to pose tolls on those interstate roads, right? So they get double money, don't they?
Well, I don't know. I know that in an earlier episode, I'm calling them episodes now. I don't know why.
This is season 1, episode 7.
Yeah.
No more season 2, because
Okay.
Exactly. In an earlier episode, we talked about toll roads, and I just don't know enough about toll roads to be able to say anything.
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
All right. So the next one down, I don't know whose turn it is. Bob, is it your turn to read?
Why not?
Okay, here you go. This is the one.
No capitation or other direct tax shall be laid unless in proportion to the census or remuneration herein before directed to be taken.
Right, so that was in Article 1, Section 2. In Article 1, Section 2, it talks about representation and direct taxes shall be apportioned among the states according to their numbers. So you have to do, if you do a capitation or direct tax, you have to do it according to the number of people that are in the state. And that is, all they're saying here is, if you didn't hear us at Article 1, Section 2, we're just telling you again.
What is capitation? Is that a head tax?
Yes, sir. That's a head tax.
Okay.
Exactly right. That's, everybody pays $1.
Okay.
Okay, next one. I think Joel.
All right. No tax or duty shall be laid on articles exported from any state.
Right. And I think well, let me ask you. I mean, I think I have a good reason why that would be, but what does anybody else have to say about that? Why do you do that?
I think
What problem does that solve?
I think the reason was there was a real desire to have all of the states work together
Mhm.
and not have any situation where they were, so to speak, in competition with each other or trying to gain an advantage over each other. So they wanted the United States be treated as a whole, not individual states creating import and export duties and that kind of thing like you would with London or, I mean, England or France or Germany or whatever.
Okay. Anybody else have any other thoughts on that?
Well, I think depending on what the definition of exported means, one could mean from one state to another, and if they started doing that, it could get to be a real mess. So that wouldn't be a good thing, but exporting out of the country, I think, as Joel said, that makes more sense. You know, have the federal government control any kind of export taxes to other countries.
But what this is saying is that Congress
Judy.
can't do export taxes either.
Right.
That's what this is saying.
Ah. Well, who does it then?
Well,
Good question.
I don't know. Teresa, you got any thoughts on that? Okay. Howard? I wonder if Howard's there. Kevin,
But
you have any idea on this? No tax or duty shall be laid on articles exported from any state. Why did they put that in there?
well, you know, it's before the income tax, so I think they were relied a lot on excise taxes, things being imported or what have you. But I don't know, maybe because if one state we could get into a war, like a tariff war, you know, where they're
Okay. All right. Well, may I tell you what I think?
Sure.
Please
What
do.
I think is the reason they did that is because when you tax something, when you tax something, you tend to get less of it. And I think that what they wanted to do was they wanted to have the country be very productive and export all kinds of stuff and be able to trade with the world and not have any internal barriers upon them, making it so that it's difficult for us to be able to produce something and sell it abroad. I think I think it's just for the purpose of prosperity. It's just a point of making it so that we can be more prosperous.
Can you hear me now? This is Howard.
Hi,
you hear me?
Howard.
Yeah.
Hi. I don't know. I guess my my USB plug wasn't fully inserted or something, but I've been trying to say stuff, haven't been able to, so I pull it out and replugged it. So now I'm back. Okay.
Nuzzle.
This benefited the southern states, particularly because they exported lots of cotton, and they
Good point.
wouldn't have signed the Constitution to join the Union if they were going to be taxed on their major cash product.
Good.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Also, earlier, someone asked about do the restrictions on the states apply as well as to the federal government?
We're talking about ex post facto because up here it says ex post facto should not be passed by the U.S. Congress. So does that apply also to the states? And you have a thought on that?
I do. Amendment 14. And I'm looking through the book here, John. Amendment. Let's see, is this 14? Yeah. Somewhere here, was it 15 or was it 14? Here's 14.
which
No,
one,
no
which does it
state
say?
shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. This is Section 1 of Amendment 14.
Right.
So one would presume that, what was the topic?
Ex post facto laws.
Would also apply to the state.
It does at that point.
Okay.
I mean, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. It makes it and at that point, all of the it's pretty much all of the Bill of Rights, the freedom of religion and speech and all that, all got folded into states as well, on that specific thing right there. On that on that point with Amendment 14.
Good.
All right.
All right. That's enough. Thank you.
Okay. Very good. Moving on. I think it's Kevin's turn to read.
No.
It's not Kevin.
Excuse
It
me.
is Kevin. It isn't Kevin.
Do you want me to read?
Yes, sir.
Okay. No preference shall be given by any regulation of commerce or revenue to the ports of one state over those of another, nor shall vessels bound to or from one state be obliged to enter, clear, or pay duties in another.
And this goes exactly to the point that Joel and Bob were making earlier, to that of not having the states basically fighting with each other. Howard, shall you like to do this? Would you like to do this one?
Oh, sure. No money shall be drawn from the treasury, but in consequence of appropriations made by law, and a regular statement and account of receipts and expenditure of all public money shall be published from time to time.
Good. So if you want to take money out of the treasury, you have to get a law passed. Takes an act of Congress to get money out of treasury.
Good.
And Joel, were you going to say something?
Yeah, it was interesting in the book, Alexander Hamilton, Treasury became the largest department immediately after the Constitution was passed.
Oh,
Part of it was because they had to do so much record keeping. Even at that time, there was a large flow of money from the government and into the government. And so just to keep track of it all, there was really no Department of Defense, or it was very small. The State Department was 2 or 3 people, but Hamilton had a crew of about 50 people pretty quickly.
wow! And that's not including revenue agents too, I'm sure.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right.
So the 25 billion for the post office that's being proposed by the House still has to go through the Senate and President before they can actually appropriate it and make it and do it.
That's correct.
And they have now where it says publish from time to time. Are they doing that? Where do we find that?
Oh yeah, that's whenever they do the budget. Whenever they do, you can go on to. I'm sure you can go on to treasury.gov or something like that.
Office of Budget Management.
And you can say, expenditures, government expenditures or government, and look for the profit and loss statement or something like that.
Right.
And it'd be there.
Yeah, I'm not reading that.
No, yeah, exactly.
Horrible.
All right, Teresa, you get this one.
Okay. No title of nobility shall be granted by the United States, and no person holding any office of profit or trust under them shall, without the consent of the Congress, accept of any present emolument, office, or title of any kind whatever from any king, prince, or foreign state.
Good.
Wow. Okay.
So why do you think we put that one in here?
Because we're all equal. We don't have nobility in this country.
Good.
Right. Yeah, not so we won't be like what they had done before in Europe.
Yeah,
know,
and
some
and
people
that definitely is the first part of it. But there's also a second part, the second part of it. um, And that is to not accept any emolument, present gift or whatever from any.
Right.
Okay, would you define emolument, please? Again,
Getting something of value from somebody.
bribes.
Isn't it payment for a public office? The pay you would get in a public office is an emolument, I think.
Yes, yes, it is. Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
So
Well,
it's a
I think this was just simply that if they didn't want people in the United States being bought off by foreign powers.
Exactly right.
Right.
Being bought off. That is the operative phrase. Exactly right. That's
John,
exactly.
what is office of profit or trust? What does that mean?
It's a profit, meaning you get paid for it. Like,
But I mean,
you know,
they're talking about an office of profit. Was there such a thing?
well, it's an office that you get paid for. I mean,
Oh,
you're in
oh,
you're in Congress, you get a paycheck. You're a clerk at a post office, you get a
It
paycheck.
sounds like a department.
Okay, so it's not a formal name of something. I guess the fact that it's capitalized is what threw me off.
Oh no, yeah, capitalizations have to do with the old style of basically capitalizing pretty much every noun in the old German style.
Okay.
And even if you're not making money, but you're being entrusted to do something, it's saying it's profit or trust. So either you're paid, or even if you're not paid, you're not going to accept any present emolument and so on, or title, and without the consent of Congress. But here, on the side, I ask, but why might Congress allow someone to accept a gift?
Because they're greedy, they're corrupt. Oh.
I think it
Okay.
sometimes is good manners. I mean, in certain cultures, that's, and they still do that. I mean, the president gets gifts from heads of foreign state, and I think he or she would give gifts to other foreign dignitaries as well.
Exactly right. And Congress allows that to happen because it's being polite. It's good manners. And the bust of Churchill that's in the Oval Office was a gift from England. And I'm sure Congress had to say, yes, it's okay. You can keep the bust. All right. So these were the things that Congress, these were the things that they did not want Congress to do. There was powers forbidden to Congress. And we can see in here the beginnings of like that, habeas corpus, bill of attainder, ex post facto. You can see in here kind of the beginnings of a Bill of Rights to protect the people and the states from this national government. So those are the powers that were forbidden to Congress. And I think we're going to end it here. It's only been 45 minutes, but it's been a powerful 45 minutes, I think.
We're almost making it to Article 2.
Almost doing Article 2. What? I'm sorry? What do you mean?
Yeah, we're almost making it to Article 2, because after,
Well, yeah, no.
after Section 10 comes Article 2.
Yeah, next time we're going to do this one. Oh my gosh, this is so short.
It's short. Let's do it.
Let's just do powers forbidden to states. And Howard, you had a question to me at one time, and I answered your question. I said it's in Article 1, Section 10. So we're going to do this. We're going to do this now. All right.
So let Howard read the first section.
Who's up to read? Howard. Howard, you're up to read. Read to this far.
Hello, Howard.
Howard.
Uh-oh.
Oh, did he lose his USB drive again? Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Kevin, are you there?
Can you hear me now?
There you are.
All right. I'm gonna
I'm
hold
having
you off,
such
Howard.
trouble with
I'm gonna
my
hold you
plug.
off, Howard. I'm gonna have Kevin do this part. Kevin?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but okay, so Kevin, give me that part that's highlighted there.
No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit.
Okay, so these are the things that states are not allowed to do. They are not allowed to emit bills of credit. They are not allowed to have paper money. They are not allowed to coin money under their own thing, saying this is an Alabama dollar. You can't coin something and say this is an Alabama dollar. They're not to enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation. They're not to grant letters of marque and reprisal, which is to attack enemy shipping. So they're not going to go to war without the rest of the country behind them. So these are the things that the states are not allowed to do. Yes, Marty?
Well, California recently, like in the last couple of years or so, didn't they try to enter into a treaty with someone? Was it China? I remember California did that.
There are, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a little,
Yeah.
it's kind of a little weird.
May I say something?
Yeah.
There is a kind of an archaic law, I think Clinton passed it, where Oregon has entered into with China, and I think California did as well. I think that's what Marty may be referring to.
Oh, maybe.
It has to do with global warming and buying and selling cap and trade, things like that.
Oh, could be, yeah.
Well, and if it is, it looks to me like they wouldn't be constitutional, so I don't know how they can get around it.
The Democrats.
Well,
Bravo that.
Okay. So now the next one, this one is Howard's.
All right. Make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts.
So it doesn't talk, this is not a power forbidden to the federal government, which is a mistake that's often made. People look at this and they say, oh, the federal government isn't supposed to make anything but gold and silver coin. That's the only kind of coin you're supposed to make is gold and silver. But this is in section 10, which is power forbidden to states, not forbidden to the national government.
Yes. I looked this up a little bit, and that paper money has a history. Massachusetts was the first state to make paper money, print paper money.
Yeah.
Because they would send raiding parties up to attack the French up in Quebec and bring the loot home. And one year they failed. They were driven off by the Frenchies up in Canada, and they were very disgruntled. So the legislature paid them in paper money, and that caught on. Other states thought, "What a good idea!" And
paper money's actually been around for a very long time.
oh yes, China earlier.
Yeah. So anyway, moving on because we want to finish section 10.
Yes.
All right, the next one is, I think, Marty, you're up. Why don't you do this one?
Pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of Congress, obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility.
That's kind of all the same kind of thing that we had going on before.
Right.
Attainders, ex post factos. Now see, there you go.
There you go.
Power forbidden to state, ex post facto law. So when it was mentioned up in 9, didn't mention this, that had nothing to do with the states, but down here in section 10, ex post facto is also there. So these are the things that no state can do, period. End of story. However, we also have the things that the states cannot do unless they have the consent of Congress. And I think, who's up? Oh, Bob, you are up next. Okay, I think you can just go ahead and read that. I think we can just make it through that section there.
No state shall, without the consent of the Congress, lay any imposts or duties on imports or exports except what may be absolutely necessary for executing its inspection laws, and the net produce of all duties and imposts laid by any state on imports or exports shall be for the use of the Treasury of the United States, and all such laws shall be subject to the revision and control of the Congress.
Good. So I know when I go into California, I have to stop and submit to inspection. Usually the inspection is, do you have any fruits? No? Have a nice day. But if they're, if they wanted to at that time charge me a fee for, to come into California, it would, they could do that, but it would have to be only what is absolutely necessary for executing the inspection laws. And if there's any left over, it goes to the federal government. So to make
Yeah.
sure the states don't
Question,
try to get rich off of other states. Yeah.
question I have is just without the consent of Congress, that's the federal Congress, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. Correct. All right. That's that one. And now we have this one. And
Joel.
Joel.
All right. No state shall, without the consent of Congress, lay any duty of tonnage, keep troops or ships of war in times of peace, enter into any agreement or compact with another state or with a foreign power, or engage in war unless actually invaded or in such imminent danger as will not admit of delay.
Good. So this is you're not, again, this has to do with the duty of tonnage has to do with like the imports and exports, imposts and duties on imports and exports. It's a different kind of duty. It has to do with the duty of a ship that comes in and the weight of the ship that comes in. Not going to keep troops, or
It can't keep troops.
can't keep troops. That you do have your militia, and you do have your militia. And here's the point also is enter into any agreement or compact with another state or with a foreign power.
Yeah.
And that's the problem that they're going to run into in this latest attempt to elect the president by
Electoral
national
college.
vote. Because the states are saying we are going to go with the national vote as long as other guys go with the national vote. So all of these states have to operate in concert. So that's going to be an agreement or compact with each other. So as soon as they try to put it into effect, it's going to be immediately go to court, and
Yeah.
this will be at least one of the points is right here that they're not allowed to do that
Without the consent of Congress.
without the consent of Congress. Exactly.
Well, the Congress has two houses, so they have to get both houses to agree.
You have to get everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, get them all, both houses to agree. Exactly right.
It will be interesting the next time that a Republican gets the majority vote to see, it'll take some wind out of some sails. I predict that Trump will get the majority of the popular vote in this coming election.
Okay.
And I'm waiting. I got some money on this, actually.
And it doesn't matter because we got the Electoral College, like John put out the article the other day. You know, it doesn't matter. The popular vote doesn't matter at all. It's the people who go to the Electoral College, how they vote. If your state can't get it together in time, you don't count. The rest of the country counts.
Yeah, well, that's that, and
True.
And I actually got some additional data on that, and I'll probably write up some more stuff because the first and last time that they had a contested election like that, because some of the states they couldn't figure out who did it, Congress appointed an electoral commission. This was in the election of 1876, Rutherford B. Hayes, and there were 3 states that southern states in which a number of blacks had voted Republican but the whites didn't want them to have voted Republican. And they wanted those states to go to the Democrat. And there was a whole big flurry of how do you count and what gets counted and stuff like that. And I went to this commission. So I'm going to study up on that commission. What I wrote is just by looking at it, it seems obvious that this is the way it should work, you know, and I still think it's true. And I think if we were rational, if we had a rational government, that's how it would work. But at any rate, I've said enough, I think. All right, so next time we're going to do Article 2. It's going to start with
Yay.
Article 2. Yes, Marty.
Now, you'd mentioned talking about natural born citizen. Was that during this call here or somewhere else? You'd asked me to bring it up.
Natural born citizen, yes. What am I supposed to say about natural born citizen? I know when I asked you to do that, I had something in mind.
Is it regarding Kamala Harris, whose parents were both
One.
foreign citizens when she was born?
I know that I've written on that recently, and that the email that you had on that, that you sent me about that, because I wrote an email about that,
Right.
and to everyone, and I don't know. I'm doing some more stuff. I'm doing some more research on natural born citizen also, and I'm going to be putting out another.
Yeah, because the reason why both of your parents need to be citizens, not natural born, but need to be citizens, is that you don't have any allegiance elsewhere. Like Kamala Harris is actually a Jamaican citizen. From my understanding, she has not renounced the Jamaican citizenship. So she has foreign allegiance, and that's what we don't want.
Right.
Nor been naturalized a U.S. citizen.
Say it again?
Well, now you get into the idea of dual citizenship, which people are allowed dual citizenship, and I personally don't.
Not for president.
I don't think that's a good idea.
No, natural born citizen is you have to be. President's the only one that has that requirement. Natural born citizen. You can be a member of Congress without being a natural born citizen.
No, exactly so. But having dual citizenship, I think, is just silly. You're just asking. You're just asking for trouble. Anyway,
okay.
I am going to be sending out another email about that, and I'm sorry that I don't recall what it is that I was going to say to you.
Okay.
We understand, John.
We'll accept it. You can report next week on it.
We'll hear about it in his email.
Good.
I think the email will come out before then. Okay.
I wanted to apologize. John was right about the National Guard Act of 1903. It was not 1911. I was getting my guns confused with my years.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. Any other comments? All right.
Bye.
Have a good week.
All right. We'll see you all next week.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Have a
Thank
good
you,
one.
guys.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.